Today I'm here with Chet Thompson, President and CEO of the American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers. And we're going to talk about, wow, the hefty prices at the pump. Good morning, Chet.
Morning, James. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. So my question is, we already know part of the answer, but why are gas prices so high?
But James, it's a question I'm getting a lot of, as you might imagine, and there's lots of factors that are impacting gas prices, but there are three that are really driving it. And first is the cost of crude oil. Crude oil, contributes about 60%, just a little bit short of that, of the price of gasoline. And crude oil has gone up dramatically over the last few months. As we've come out of COVID, we've had greater demand for products, and frankly, that demand has outstripped supplies. You add in Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and that's taken about 3 million barrels of crude off the world market. And you have crude oil prices that are well above $100. So that's one, that's a big factor. Inflation, like everything else that we're buying today, everything is more expensive. It costs more to transport, to produce, to ship everything. And lastly, but importantly, are energy policies. And we've adopted some energy policies, frankly, in this country that have disincentivized energy production. And these are all kind of coming together in this perfect storm to create gasoline prices that are much higher than anybody wants to see.
So, Chet, who decides how much to charge for gasoline?
Well, there's two factors in that, two dominant factors. One, again, as I alluded, is crude and gasoline and diesel. These are global commodities, and the price is set on the global stage. So that's one. And then at individual markets, the individual retailers that decide exactly how much they're going to charge. But they're cabined in by the price of crude and the price of gasoline on the world market. But there's 150,000 stations in this country. More than 95% of them are independently owned and operated, and they get to decide the ultimate price. And they get those big blue signs, James, that tells the whole world what they're charging, and it's ferociously, competitive. One thing I know for sure is, this notion that folks are out there gouging. I don't believe it for a second. People, are posting their signs. It creates more competition than about any other sector out there.
Now, will taxing oil producers and refiner profits do anything to reduce cost for consumers?
I know that makes for popular political rhetoric, but those aren't the solution, James. Right now we need more supply, and when you tax something, you don't get more of it; you get less of it. If you want products to come down in expense, you don't make it more expensive to produce; you make it less. So again, I understand. I'm in Washington D.C. I understand everyone's desire to grandstand a bit on this, but raising taxes, raising the costs for production is not the solution. It will only make matters worse.
So, what you just talked about, will that help get prices under control?
Well, no, not some of those policies. I fear that the only thing, James, that are going to help with prices, we need to get, we need to build up the supply of crude. We need to find demand and supply, and basic economics need to balance each other out. We need to get some certainty in Ukraine and on the world order. And when those things happen, you're going to see crude prices come down, hopefully sooner rather than later. And when crude prices come down, gasoline prices will follow.
Chet, why did we see this coming?
Why didn't we see this coming?
Yeah.
I think some folks did. James. I think we have adopted policies in this country over the last year or so that has really hampered U.S. energy production. We've seen production fall by a couple million barrels a day, and there's been a lot of folks out there really encouraging makers on both sides of the aisle. We need to adopt policies that help become the United States become more energy secure. We have all the resources we need, James, to do that. We need folks that are going to get serious about policies to help make this happen.
Now, when are things going to get better for drivers?
Well, I wish I had the answer to that. I know I do think things will get better. I can't say with precision. Other than say these things are, it's going to have to work itself out. You can just turn on the TV at night to see the chaos, and some of this chaos has to calm down. I'm hopeful that in the next few months you're going to see crude prices come down, and again, when crude prices come down, gasoline prices will follow.
Well, you talked about Washington and policies and people talking about energy. What can the public do to say, I mean, we protest the war. We ought to protest about, hey, we need more energy in America. We need to rely on ourselves more.
Great point, James. I agree. And, I encourage all your viewers to reach out to their, policymakers at all levels of government and make, share that viewpoint. There's really no reason we're not doing more in this country. We do not need to be relying on places like Russia and Iran for any of our fuel. We have enough resources to meet our needs and help make sure our allies don't have to rely on those places that as well. And so it's in our power as a country to do this. We need policymakers that, to get serious about it and to help us.
I think one of the ways that we can do it is get the people together and protest and do ride shares and don't go to the pump as much. And then they'll say, hey, what's going on here? Well, we're protesting. We need to see something happen.
James, I hear you, other than the fact that I think your policymakers need to hear from you first and foremost, because that's the only thing that's going to make it better, frankly, is, these gas stations, they don't want to charge these prices. But remember, crude oil is like, it's an ingredient. It's like a baker whose flour prices or wheat prices go up. Of course, the loaf of bread's going to be more expensive. So the mom and pops that own these gas stations, their prices are up because crude oil prices are up. And that's up because we don't have policy in place to make, to generate more oil in this country. We can do those things right now.
Speaking of right now, where can our viewers go for more information?
James, I encourage your viewers to go to our website, AFPM.org. We have loads of information there about the refining industry, about policies, more than anyone care to know about the industry. It's there. We encourage your viewers to go there. AFPM.org.
AFPM.org. We've been speaking with Chet Thompson. He's president and CEO of the American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers. Chet, thank you so much for chatting with us.
James, great pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.